Hello, law students and legal practitioners. Today, we will analyze the case of Aquilino Q. Pimentel Jr. vs. Commission on Elections, GR number 178413, decided by the Supreme Court on March 13, 2008. Let's begin. Here are the legal doctrines of the case. In elections for senators, the general rule remains that pre-proclamation controversies on matters relating to the preparation, transmission, receipt, custody, and appreciation of election returns or certificates of canvass are prohibited, subject only to strict and narrowly construed exceptions. While Republic Act No. 9369 amended Sections 15 and 30 of Republic Act No. 7166 to allow the COMELEC and Bank, acting as the National Board of Canvassers, NBC, to determine the authenticity and due execution of certificates of canvass, such authority does not extend to local boards of canvassers, including special provincial boards, whose functions remain administrative, summary, and facial. Once a senatorial candidate has been proclaimed and has assumed office, exclusive jurisdiction over all contests relating to the election, returns, and qualifications of senators lies with the Senate Electoral Tribunal, SET, thereby divesting both the COMELEC and the Supreme Court of authority to entertain such disputes. Claims of due process violation during canvass proceedings must identify a legally protected right to life, liberty, or property. Canvass proceedings do not contemplate confrontation of witnesses or trial-type hearings, and the denial of such does not amount to a denial of procedural due process. Here are the relevant facts of the case. The case arose from the May 14, 2007 senatorial elections, in which Aquilino L. Pimentel III and Juan Miguel F. Zubiri were the sole remaining contenders for the 12th and final senatorial seat. Due to massive irregularities in Maguindanao, the original Provincial Board of Canvassers chaired by Provincial Election Supervisor Lintang Bidal was discredited. The COMELEC excluded the original PCOC, Bidal PCOC, from the national canvass after finding it tainted with fraud and statistical improbabilities. The COMELEC created the Special Provincial Board of Canvassers for Maguindanao, SPBOC Maguindanao, and tasked it to re-canvass 21 municipal certificates of canvass, MCOCs, retrieved by Task Force Maguindanao, most of which were copy 2, wall copies. During the re-canvass, Pimentel's counsel repeatedly sought to question Bidal and municipal canvass officials to establish that the MCOCs were manufactured, statistically improbable, unsigned, improperly posted, and unsupported by other authentic copies. The SPBOC refused to allow questioning, merely noting the objections. The SPBOC submitted a second Maguindanao PCOC, which was included by the NBC. As a result, Pimentel's lead over Zubiri shrank dramatically. Pimentel filed a petition for certiorari and mandamus, alleging grave abuse of discretion, denial of due process, and denial of equal protection, and sought exclusion of the Maguindanao results or an order compelling full inquiry into the MCOCs. Despite the pending petition, Zubiri was proclaimed senator on July 14, 2007 and assumed office on July 16, 2007, prompting Pimentel to also file an election protest before the SET. Issue 1. Whether the SPBOC Maguindanao committed grave abuse of discretion in refusing to entertain a pre-proclamation controversy involving the authenticity of MCOCs. No, the SPBOC acted within its authority. Under Section 15 of RA 7166, pre-proclamation cases in senatorial elections are prohibited. The exception under Section 30, as amended by RA 9369, applies only to the COMELEC and Bank acting as the NBC, not to local or special boards of canvassers. The SPBOC's function was limited to facial canvass. Allowing interrogation of witnesses and presentation of evidence would convert the proceeding into a prohibited pre-proclamation case. Any challenge requiring piercing the face of the MCOCs belongs to an election protest. Issue 2. Whether the COMELEC and Bank, acting as the NBC, violated petitioners' rights by refusing to allow questioning of election officials and by including the second Maguindanao PCOC. No, the NBC properly exercised its statutory authority. Section 30 of RA 7166, as amended, authorizes the NBC to determine authenticity and due execution of PCOCs based on enumerated criteria, not through trial-type proceedings. The NBC applied the statutory criteria to the second Maguindanao PCOC, which had multiple authentic copies and no facial discrepancies. The law does not require confrontation of witnesses during canvass. Issue 3. Whether petitioner was denied procedural and substantive due process. No due process violation occurred. Procedural due process in canvass proceedings is summary, and the law does not grant a right to cross-examine witnesses. Substantive due process requires deprivation of life, liberty, or property. Petitioner had no vested right to the Senate seat prior to proclamation. His objections were heard and noted. The denial of questioning does not amount to denial of due process. Issue 4. Whether the Supreme Court retained jurisdiction after Zuberi's proclamation and assumption of office. No. Jurisdiction properly lies with the Senate Electoral Tribunal. Article 6, Section 17 of the Constitution vests the Senate with exclusive jurisdiction over all senatorial election contests. Pimentel had already filed an election protest before the Senate. Entertaining the petition would cause duplication and conflict of jurisdiction. Thank you for listening and happy learning. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Legal Shepherd PH YouTube channel and click the notification bell to stay updated on newly uploaded cases and jurisprudence. See you again for our next case discussions.